ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
We will go through a question tonight. He says, how should one pray when they are traveling? Do they pray it as usual or do they shorten it? How should one pray when they are traveling? Do they pray it as usual or do they shorten it? طيب. First and foremost, the opinion that we are leaning towards is that a person will only be known as a traveler if he is traveling to a place 80 kilometers or more away from his place of residency. A person will only be considered to be a traveler if he is traveling to a place that is 80 kilometers and more away from his residency. So how do he count the 80 kilometers? The 80 kilometers will begin at the last building in his place of residency. So for example, as in Singapore, if you are traveling to the upper part of Malaysia and so on, so the 80 kilometers will begin at the last building that is known to be in Singapore. So if we leave like from the Woodlands checkpoint, then it begins from the Woodlands checkpoint onwards. That is the last building that belongs to Singapore. So 80 kilometers begins there. Or if we leave via Tuas, then 80 kilometers begins there. Or if we leave from the Changi airport, then 80 kilometers begins from the Changi airport. Or the Seletar airport, then it begins there. That is the last building from that area that is known to be from Singapore. So 80 kilometers begins there, and if he is traveling, like for example, to Malacca or Kuala Lumpur, then it's for sure it's 80 kilometers and above. If it is lesser than 80 kilometers, like parts of than 80 kilometers, then even if it is a different country, but it is lesser than 80 kilometers, even if it is named as Malaysia, but it is lesser than 80 kilometers, then this person is not a traveler. A point that we are leaning towards longer. Alayhi wa sallam, he said in a hadith, لا يحل لامرأة تؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر أن تسافر مسيرة يوم وليلة. It's not allowed for a woman who believes in Allah and the hereafter to travel the distance of a day and night. And this is the least that has been found in the legislation or in the legislative texts that describe it to be a travel, a distance of travel, which is the distance of a day and night. And this is arba'atu buruj, 16 farsakh, which is approximately 80 kilometers. This is the list that had came in the legislative texts, 80 kilometers, to be known as a travel. And so, if a person, he travels 80 kilometers or more from the place of his residency, he is known as a traveler. And a traveler, barakallahu fikum, permissible for a traveler. How does he pray? It is permissible for him to shorten his prayers. It is permissible for him to shorten his prayers. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he said, وَإِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ أَن تَقْصُرُوا. If you travel, then there's nothing wrong upon you to shorten the prayer. And so, for the prayers that are of 4 units, you are permitted to shorten it to 2 units. So for Asr, for Dhuhr, for Asr, for Isha, you are permitted to shorten them to 2 units of prayer. As for the Maghrib and the Fajr remains at 2, the Maghrib remains at 3. The others that are 4 units, you are permitted to shorten it to 2 units. This is in about shortening of the prayer. As for joining the prayer, joining the Dhuhr with the Asr or the Maghrib with the Isha, then joining of the prayer, the correct opinion that we are leaning towards is that if there is a need for you, such as tiredness, or also if there is a need, then it is allowed for you to join and combine the 2 prayers together, Asr with Dhuhr or Dhuhr with Asr, Maghrib with Isha or Isha with Maghrib. Whether you put forth or you delay it to the later time, it is permitted for you to join if there is a need. If there is no need, then still praying them in their appropriate time is a must. If there is no need, everything is as it is, you are not tired, you are not affected by the travel, also then praying at each appointed time is a must still. This is the opinion that we are leaning towards, although the Jumhur, the majority, says that traveling itself is from a reason to join and combine the prayers together. And when can a person start to shorten and combine his prayer? He is able to do so from the very moment that he leaves the last building of his place of residency. So for example, if a person is traveling from Singapore to Malacca, Malacca is 80 kilometers and more away from Singapore. The last building, when he leaves the Changi, when he leaves the Woodland checkpoint, he is already starting on his journey, and therefore it is already allowed and permitted for him to start shortening and combining his prayer. The very moment he leaves the last building of his place of residency, it is permitted for him to begin shortening and combining his prayer. Not when he reach 80 kilometers, only then it is allowed for him to shorten or to combine. No, this is not the proper understanding. Rather, when he starts his journey, that will be for more than 80 kilometers and more. When he starts his journey, it is already permitted for him to shorten and combine his prayers. I hope this answers the question, and this shall suffice us for tonight. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.